Reading between the lines of what we're hearing, official, and bearing in mind the fact that the Japanese authorities and the power companies have not always been wholly frank and upfront with information, what do we really think is going on right now?
Well, we can only go on what they've been telling us, Charles, and they have actually been putting out a lot of statements. There's been a fairly constant flow of information throughout this. The veracity of it, well, we can go on what they've been telling us from where we're standing. What they say is, and you have to bear with me at this because it can get a little bit confusing when we get into these numbers. We're talking about 3 reactors at the Daiichi plant in Fukushima. Now, initially the concern was with reactor 1 and reactor 3. Now, there was a talk of a strong possibility, an assumption of a strong possibility of a meltdown in reactor 1 and the possibility, a little less, of a meltdown in reactor 3. Well, today we had this explosion in reactor 3, a hydrogen explosion, a carbon copy of a similar explosion that happened in reactor 1. As a result of that, now we bring another reactor into play, and that's reactor number 2. It has knocked out, that explosion knocked out the cooling system for 2, also stopped the cooling process in 1 and 3. So now they have a triple problem. They've got cooling problems with the reactors in all 3 of those places at the plant. So what they've been trying to do is to pump more seawater in there to try to cool those reactors. They've been able to start the seawater process for reactor 2, but the other 2 at this point have not been able to come online. And all of this really, Charles, raises a concern about radiation going into the atmosphere. They have admitted there has been various levels of radiation detected, but the government has stressed all along that they are not at a level that would be harmful to people. But, of course, there is the 20-kilometre, 12 or 13-mile exclusion zone where people have been evacuated from their homes, about 200,000 people. So the picture continues to change, and I think that's where a lot of the uncertainty and the doubt comes in. Each event, we get more information, and that raises more uncertainty, and perhaps people bring their own fears to bear on that as well. Charles?
So it's imagined that surrounding these 3 reactors in which the cooling systems have failed and 2 of which have, one of which certainly has suffered an explosion, there is a 20-kilometre exclusion zone. I mean, the exclusion zone speaks volumes about what the government really thinks, doesn't it, as opposed to what they're saying.
Yeah, the key here is this. They're assuming the worst and planning for the best. Now, assuming the worst means that they assume that there has been this meltdown of the reactor in at least 1 and 3. Assuming that, they then bring in this exclusion zone so that people do not fall prey to the harmful effects of radiation. What they are planning for is that the redundancy safety features of these reactors kick into gear, and if there is a meltdown or disintegration of the reactor, it doesn't escape into the atmosphere, it doesn't go into the ground. Remember, these reactors are housed in a building. There is also a containment vessel around that. What they're hoping for and what they're planning for are that all those safety procedures work. But in the meantime, you have to assume the worst, and that's why they've set these other methods, other measures in place. Charles?